The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Welcome everyone to our Supply Chain Council webinar for today. Our topic is the cross-domain product lifecycle operations reference xPLOR, and this product is going to be used in a SCOR project, Supply Chain Council global project that we're putting together. Our speaker today is Albert Reichen, who is with SAP in Germany. He coordinates the new product introduction team for SAP, and new product introduction team orchestrates SAP's activities in bringing disruptive software solutions to market adoption. Previously, Albert worked with as a supply chain and applications consultant for various companies, and his SCC involvement started in 2001 with which was his first SCOR class. And I also wanted to note I do have everybody who's on muted. However, please do type questions, and we will answer them at the end of the presentation. I'll answer as many as I can that are involving routine issues during the presentation via the chat and question box. Also, we're recording this today, so it will be posted on the webinar archive on the Supply Chain Council site immediately after the presentation. And so with that, I will turn this over to Albert. Albert?
Yes, thanks Melinda, and thanks to everybody for joining the webinar on xPLOR. Today I will give an overview of the xPLOR reference. At SAP, in the new product introduction team, we use xPLOR for internal purposes. The mission of our team in SAP is to bring adjacent and disruptive software products to market adoption. And the xPLOR model helps us to orchestrate and align processes which belong to a wide variety of internal and external stakeholders. We believe that the future of innovation is holistic and networked, and I'd like to elaborate a bit on this. First, let's look at the issues that we have with traditional ways of managing innovation. Traditionally, innovation was done in isolation. That means department silos work on ideas behind closed doors. There was innovation meant basically to be within the four walls of the company. The result was a disconnect in focus. Innovation was between the departments, thrown over the fence. In other words, research invents, product development makes a product out of it, and marketing does the advertising. Finally, nobody looks at the innovation from end to end, and nobody looks really at the final objective of innovation. The future approach will be an innovation management that is fast, open, and global. The idea is to sustain competitive advantage through agility. Competitive advantage through agility, that means we need an agility in the innovation approach that we take. Why is this? Markets change ever faster. Globalization creates new market entries. New market entrants mean new competitors, but also can mean new customers. There will be new product substitutes. There will be new business models, and we'll have cultural changes and challenges, legal changes and challenges, new rules in the global society, new market conditions. As an example of new market conditions, just think of Google's dispute with Oracle on the Android and how this will change the conditions we develop software under. Agility thus means faster innovation cycles and faster alignment. And by fast, I mean fast as in fail fast and fail often. Open innovation includes co-innovation. That means we involve a network of externals into any into any step of the innovation process. We collaborate with customers, first of all, because often customers want to be involved. One of the finest examples I've seen is the lead user approach for breakthrough innovation published by Eric von Hippel on the MIT. Second, innovation is not anymore dominated by the Western world. There is a need to not only win in the rich, but also to win in the emerging markets. For instance, emerging markets may want a car for just $2,500. On the reverse, there's a trickle up of those innovations into, again, what used to be called the developed markets. Second thing is that innovation needs to be seen holistic. And by holistic, I mean to, first of all, align the many aspects of a future offering. We observe that parties inside and outside the company have an increasing stake in innovations. It becomes ever more complex to align a global organization, and even more complex to align all the other external parties for health or environmental risks. Just to give an example again, the Google Street View triggered here in Germany and in many other European countries a huge debate on privacy that is probably not that much an issue in the US or other countries. We need to align external parties for sustainability, for intellectual property, or due to technical complexity. In SAP, we have cornerstone products that we are now developing with other large software companies, such as Information Worker we develop with Microsoft and IBM. Those players are much larger than we are. Finally, we need to collaborate on international standards, such as ISO or the Rosetta. To the other case for holistic is that an end-to-end view on innovation is important. The ultimate purpose of an innovation and product lifecycle management is to ensure profitable growth. Thus, end-to-end in innovation and product lifecycle management encompasses the entire lifecycle curve, from the invention through market entry, growth, and maturity of a product. The driver for innovation needs to be the customer value. Fast, open, and global innovation needs a process network, and this is now the case for a reference model. We said we want to align a multitude of stakeholders around the globe, customers and users, partners for research, distribution, or delivery, suppliers, government and non-government organizations. Any collaboration with such an ecosystem requires a clear definition of tasks, of metrics for success, and relationship between these tasks. And this specifically is the case for a reference model. Profitable growth, on the other hand, needs an end-to-end view on innovation and lifecycle management. If you take a look at the lifecycle curve here in the left corner, innovation is not over after a successful market entry. That means you sold to innovators, to the 2.5%. To reach market adoption, which is no sooner than reaching the early majority, innovation needs to cross several stages of this lifecycle curve. If you take an even broader view at the category lifecycle, in this example something that Jeffrey Moore published in Dealing with Darwin, there are different types of innovations which apply to different stages in this category lifecycle. And again, this is something that a reference model for innovation and product lifecycle management needs to explain. Finally, innovation and product lifecycle management should align the other business domains, supply chain, customer relationship management, and product design. Now, here is what we use, the xPLOR reference model. xPLOR stands for Cross-Domain Product Lifecycle Operations Reference, and it is comprised out of 5 process types on level 1. And this is no coincidence that we designed it by what we found in SCOR. SCOR is highly successful. So we again took process types like plan, we have a return process type such as revise, and we have 3 execution process types we call create the offering, communicate, which is the go-to-market activities, and consume, which is the deployment. In plan, we always look at a portfolio of future and existing products. What we do is we specify the 4 Ps from marketing: product, pricing, positioning, and placement. Positioning is how to explain the product value, and placement is channels, ecosystem, for instance, also definition of the supply chain. In communicate, we look at the steps from product release to sales success, or to successfully having users subscribing. This means we execute go-to-market activities, and we need to communicate the value of the innovation such that users do subscribe. In consume, which could be looked at as a deployment activity, we move from sales success to customer value, and we are not ready before the customer received his value. We physically may deliver the product, or we give access depending on the kind of product or service. And we need to meet customer expectations such that we make users successful with our offering. In the planning process, we collect business cases and typically plan on an aggregated level. That means planning always looks more than just a single innovation or product. It looks at the portfolio, and it is something that occurs typically periodically. That means we have a yearly or a quarterly planning. Planning reflects very much the innovation and portfolio strategy of the company. Then there is a revise process where we receive and channel market feedback. This feedback may come from analysts, from the press, from customers, or from research, from internal and external parties. And this is important to understand. It is not just customer feedback. It is feedback from people who may not even use the product, who have just seen it, who may criticize it. It may be positive and negative. It may be unsolicited ideas. And finally, not shown in the graph on the upper right are the management processes in Enable. On level 2, we configure now the processes to the lifecycle curve of the offering. The assumption is that we cycle in every stage of the lifecycle curve. That means in market entry, which is here marked as introduction, in growth, which is selling to the early adopters, in the first stage of mass adoption, where we sell to the early majority, that we cycle through the 3 steps: create, communicate, consume, or create, go to market, deploy. And this means we have a clear focus on the stages towards mass adoption and possibly beyond. And we need to reflect that customers have different needs in different stages because we talk to different kinds of customers. What you see in the graph in the bottom part is the type of customers that you have in every life cycle stage and the kind of product they expect. So during market introduction, you typically have customers who focus on new technologies and who are willing to work hard to make a new technology work in order to gain an early advantage. So the product needs to be very innovative, and custom development definitely is an option. The more you move to the right, customers move from being technology nerds to expecting something that is standard. So in the early adopter phase, customers expect from a relatively new product a competitive advantage, but they are already less technologically sophisticated. The product needs to be a stable and scalable solution. What comes next is the famous chasm that Geoffrey Moore described. And if you successfully manage this, you reach mass adoption with customers who again expect a different type of product they are unwilling to adopt unless they consider the product well proven. They have less sophisticated users, they expect something complete and standardized, and you will only sell if the market talks about the product. For us, this means, for instance, that a periodical such as Computer Week talks about our solutions, or CIO magazine. Before this is discussed in publications like this, this is not an indicator that we reached mass adoption. Now, with regard to the steps in the xPLOR model, we need now to adjust the steps to each of the individual steps. What you could see from this lifecycle curve is already how innovation processes form a chain. And this is quite a bit like SCOR configure supply chains. In addition, the different forms of create, go-to-market, and delivery are represented in the different process categories in the model. Here are the 3 levels of product categories in the upper portion. They are separated by the level of disruption. For create, communicate or go-to-market, and consume and deploy, there are each 3 categories. The one is incremental innovation. That means we have a small innovation typically, a refresh to an existing line of products, and all we expect is that the innovation processes, that means create, communicate, and consume, ensure scalability. They need to be scalable. We know very well how to do these things. The next level of disruptiveness is an adjacent innovation. That means a new line of products, a new platform for products, where processes are generally known. So internally we know how to do these things. Our ecosystem may know how to deal with these things. But we need to establish new processes, even though we know how to do this. And finally, there's disruptive innovation, where we probably do not know from the start on how to do, create, communicate, or consume. In particular, the established processes are unlikely to fit to disruptive innovation. In the picture below, with the lifecycle curve, there's a hypothetical example for a new product. In this example, there is a software company which in the past created on-premise applications. That means applications that the customer would buy and then install on his computers. Now, this software company innovates into the software as a service business. This is a fundamental change. What is an example for software as a service? For instance, Hotmail or Google Mail. That means you do not need your Outlook or whatever you have as an email client, but you log on through your web browser and handle your email. What is in particular disruptive is the new way of consumption. It takes a new delivery model for this software company to be established. And because our hypothetical software company has never done a thing like this, this process is to this company highly disruptive, possibly also to the world. The existing processes the software company has do not fit at all. Examples: there's no software to be shipped, but access to be granted. The customers cannot test the software before going live, and they are not responsible for testing the software before going live. This is now the responsibility of the software company. What the software company is actually selling is not anymore software, but they are selling a process. And they need to ensure that the process runs without errors. In the next stage, in the growth stage, there are additional requirements to the consume process when it comes to scalability, when we have more than just the innovators from the first stage. In addition, the product, the create process, is probably adjacent. It is not highly disruptive because we pretty much know how to do this kind of software. We might have some technology issues, but we can master this. And finally, the go-to-market is also adjacent in innovation. That means we may need a new way of communicating the message. We may need new structures in our sales organization. Software as a service deals are typically not closed through that much expensive sales structures. They are more sold over the phone or over the internet than traditional large enterprise software. And what this represents now is a customized, a configured innovation chain along the lifecycle curve. And the idea of this example is to exactly show how this can be configured. In reality, the chain is far more complex. Go-to-market, communicate processes are often executed individually per industry or per geography. This means the software company probably has different go-to-market units, sales units, marketing units in the various countries. So this branches out. Same thing for deployment. Deployment may be done by external parties. In this case of a software company, it may be done through consulting companies. And very much like what you have seen in supply chain models, the reality is that you get a much bigger process map. This slide gives now an overview of the execution processes we identified for the xPLOR framework. Let me highlight a few processes. First of all, here on the upper left-hand side in the create, there is a qualify ideas step. This is part of the idea funnel where ideas that are somehow collected go through a qualification process. Its output is a qualified idea which then is handed over to the portfolio planning process, which is P1. We'll see the planning processes on the next slide. During idea qualification, it is certainly not yet decided whether we will later pursue an idea and turn it into a product. This is why we have the portfolio process which selects ideas. A product decision has been taken as of this step once we either schedule the create activities or, in the disruptive case, set up the create process and the create organization. Set up create process and organization assumes that we have a disruptive innovation which needs a whole new setup. We do not yet know how exactly to do all the things that follow. And a good example for this is a business incubator who creates startups for highly disruptive ideas. We have this setup in the creation of disruptive innovations in the go-to-market, in the communicate for disruptive innovations, and we'll have it again in the consumption or deployment for disruptive innovations. Whenever it is necessary to respond to something disruptive, you will probably need this step. Acquire detailed market knowledge is something that we don't need when it is just a product refresh, when we are talking of incremental products, incremental communication, or incremental consumption. However, it is necessary if we don't know the market yet. That means certainly, probably in the adjacent case, and definitely in highly disruptive cases. In highly disruptive cases, the market may not even exist. A good example for disruptive innovation and for acquiring detailed market knowledge at this stage is the lead user identification and the elicitation of knowledge from lead users. Next, there are 4 specify and validate steps. First, specify product features and functions and validate feasibility and compliance. Then specify pricing, specify positioning, and specify placement. This is along the 4 Ps. Now, after the specification is done, it can be handed over to development of the product, development of the pricing, development of the position, and to development of the placement. So it is, again, along the 4 Ps. And finally, the product is released to market. In the communicate macro process, it is important to understand we focus on the market. We do not necessarily focus on individual customers. Therefore, we rather contract users than saying we contract customers. I mean, in most cases it will be customers, and they are often the same people. But to us, market success means always to be successful with the users. So this process ends with contracting the users. In between, we have steps for transfer market knowledge, for rollout, which are not necessary in the incremental case. Similar thing in the consumption, in the adjacent and in the highly disruptive case, we need to establish customer support knowledge and again transfer market knowledge to our support, to our consulting staff. Why is this important? So that they speak the knowledge of the market, that they have basic understanding on how the market operates. After this has been done, or we can look at transfer product knowledge. This obviously is necessary even in the case of a product refresh. The last step in consume is either to go live with the customers, that means customers really start consuming the product, or even win user references. Only then we believe that we can claim victory within, obviously, a given lifecycle stage. Next, here an overview of the plan, enable, and revise steps. The planning process always looks at an entire portfolio of future or existing products. Input is every individual product's roadmap. That means we do not plan in this step individual product roadmaps. This is done in the create process. But we look at the business cases as an input to the P1 process. P1 is a strategic planning, and it looks often at an aggregated level at the portfolio. Typical for P1 plan innovation is a rolling plan, which is often done once a year. The processes P2, P3, and P4, which are plan create, plan communicate, and plan consume, are tactical portfolio plans. Again, they look at more than just a single offering, but they break down the results of P1, and as they are done most often on a quarterly basis, they react to short-term tactical changes. The enable processes are the usual suspects. So we have business rules for the various processes. We have performance where we define KPIs. We need to manage data. We have a need to manage business case ideas, intellectual properties. We have a need to manage lifecycle, knowledge transfer, product knowledge transfer. We need to manage the ecosystem for each of the major processes, regulatory compliance and risk. This is pretty much reflecting the enable processes that you also know from SCOR. In the revise process, there's a differentiation between unsolicited ideas and any other form of feedback. Unsolicited ideas come up quite often, and it is not easy to manage this kind of ideas because they can affect anything. On the other hand, we gather feedback that may be solicited or not solicited on the vision and on execution. And this structure reflects very much Gartner's major quadrants, where vision includes things such as the product roadmap, and the ability to execute refers in particular to our processes for create, communicate, and consume. What you can see in vision is to stimulate any feedback that you may get. Somebody else may need, certainly needs to create the feedback. This is not necessarily you, but we need to receive the feedback as a company, enrich and clean the feedback. Often there is, on a single topic, there are duplicates of feedback, and this needs to be cleaned. We need to enrich it, and finally it needs to be channeled. What is then later done with the feedback needs to be executed in the corresponding processes for plan, create, communicate, and consume. So if it is a feedback on the product, this is certainly something that you want to consider in the creation process, let's say of the next release of a product, but it may be your ability to go to the market, or your ability to deploy, or in the way people are forced to consume a product. Next thing, through a hierarchy of KPIs, we ensure the form of alignment which SCOR also gives within the supply chain domain. However, the performance attributes are different. Customer value reflects the reliability. And on a level 1, this can be measured in something like customer satisfaction, for instance. There are many more measures out there. Very important, adoption speed, time to market and all these things, net new customers within a certain period, net new references within a certain period, or time to tipping point, where we define the tipping point as the point in the lifecycle curve where the market shifts from push to pull. Typically this is right after the chasm. These two are internal views, are external views. This is how the customer experiences us. There are internal performance attributes, which is process cost. This is the process lifecycle management cost only. There is profitability, which is the profitability of the product, if the product makes money at all, or the profit generated through a product. Profit generated through a product is a broader definition of profitability for products like Google's Picasa, for instance. This product is for free, but it generates pull-through revenues. And finally, last but not least, the market adoption level, where possible metrics are market share or customer growth rate, and which one you apply depends, in my experience, very much on which life cycle stage you are at. This can be now broken down along the hierarchy of the processes along to level 2 and level 3 of the reference model. This allows you to cascade KPIs down the hierarchy of processes and make life cycles of very different products comparable. It also sets performance expectations regardless of who runs the process. That means it allows you to run specific portions of the process internally or through the ecosystem. And you get through these 5 performance attributes a holistic view on innovation performance. In discussion is to have a 6th performance attribute, which is first to market, and yeah, this is a long discussion. There may be a case to have this. The xPLOR model, in addition, is an opportunity to integrate the other reference models of the Supply Chain Council. The reason is that from a business view, the other domains need to align to our offerings to the markets. Thus, one could make a point that innovation management and product lifecycle management form an Überdomain over the other domains. For instance, within the create process, you would probably trigger the product design, which is reflected in the DCOR model. Within the communicate process, we trigger the account management process, the CCOR, relate, sell, and contract. And finally, in the consume deployment process, we trigger the SCOR model, source, make, deliver. Actually, this picture is a simplification, and we identified many more integration points. Just to give an example, the supply chain strategy and the supply chain design are outcomes of the process Create 112, which is develop and ensure quality of the placement concept. That means by defining a placement concept, we need to define a supply chain strategy, and we need to customize a supply chain. This is why we believe that Lifecycle Operations Reference would also help to get all the other models together. Well, as a next step, I would like to extend the basis of xPLOR beyond the 4 walls of SAP. My hope is that we can learn from other companies and create a model which works for more than just the software industry. Here's an overview of mission, scope, and status and what we have in mind. We would like to develop and introduce a process reference model for product lifecycle management, which spans all activities from product innovation to product retirement across the various stages of the life cycle. The model should apply to product lifecycle operations across all industries, and in particular within creating the reference, we need to find use cases from various industries. At least initially, the model should follow the internal logical structure that that SCOR successfully established, and that has been reflected in DCOR and CCOR. And we can use SAP's xPLOR model as a starting point. The scope is at least the definition and creation of the reference model with the deliveries of a process hierarchy, definition of the process integration in terms of input and output, performance attributes, a hierarchy of KPIs and KPI definitions, relations between the processes, and best practices. And in particular, best practices will make the model useful. At this stage, it is very important to find interested parties to support the project activities through contribution of content, through contribution of resources. The idea is to do publications through the Supply Chain Council. What we today have is a proposal for process categories. We have level 2 and level 3 processes defined. We have KPIs for level 1 and 2 defined. We certainly do not have yet all KPIs for level 3 defined. We identified quite a few integration points to the other reference models. And so far, obviously, we have a focus on the software industry. The approach is to set up a special interest group in the Supply Chain Council, and my personal expectation is to probably spend 18 months until the release of the 1.0 version. So what's in for you if you decide to join? It is an opportunity to influence the direction and mission of the special interest group and of the xPLOR model, an opportunity to position as a leader in innovation and product lifecycle management, and to be among the first to benefit from the new reference model. So it would be great if you and your company would join this new special interest group of the Supply Chain Council. At this point in time, first of all, thank you for listening. We'll have more information in the future on the web. Right now, I set up a placeholder on the SAP Development Network, which through a click can be seen here. So what you could do is, for instance, you could here download the web page. What I would also do is, until we have no final home, maintain this and then later publish here the URL to a final home for the xPLOR model. And I'd like now to open the room for questions.
Thank you, Albert. That's very interesting. I'll add a couple of things to what you just said. On the 23rd of September, we will hold a meeting. It is a face-to-face meeting, but also there will be call-in available. The afternoon will be devoted to this special industry group as well as this project that Albrecht mentioned. So we'll be talking about that more in depth and gathering all of your feedback on your thoughts on the project. And I also have quite a few questions for you, Albrecht, around the model itself. Mm-hmm. So these started coming early in your presentation. So I'm going to do them sequentially, give them to you sequentially. First of all, how do you handle the overlap in the consume process with SCOR deliver? Do you see an overlap?
Absolutely, and fair question. What I believe is that there is an interface, that there are points in the innovation reference model that trigger activities in the supply chain model. In particular, the deliver process has two linking points. The one is the moment we contract users, which is very much selling. There's an integration to the contract process in CCOR and to the D13 if we are in the make to stock case, to the create sales order in the SCOR model. And later there is the physical delivery of the products. I hope that can be seen here in the deployment, in the consumption, which is here called supply user with product. So this is where they integrate.
Okay. Also, similar question, the overlap in the end of communicate with CCOR's contract.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. The bridge to CCOR is the moment is right after generate and mature leads, and what we assume is that the CCOR will be really triggered on an individual account basis in the contract user step that you see here in the middle of the slide, which means, well, there's obviously a difference. CCOR is very much looking at an individual account, and we try to possibly sell them anything they would like. Here we have a view on a specific product or innovation that we try to put into the market. That means the way we measure the success of contract users is entirely different. But yes, absolutely, the trigger of CCOR is in the contract user process step.
Mm-hmm. Okay, do you see that transfer of master data to supply chain and sales is done in the, quote, rollout sales channel step?
Transfer master data, help me with that, just say it again.
Yeah, he's asking if transfer of master data to the supply chain and sales is done in the step that you're calling rollout sales channel, etc.
Yeah, that's a possibility. I mean, we have an enabling process where master data is generally managed to any of the processes, and this is manage, plan, manage, create, manage, communicate, and manage, consume data. There is a handover to the other reference models, in particular in the release product to market. And there, if we need a point in time when data are handed over, I would say it is in this release step. So once we have defined the product, it can be released to the CCOR, to the SCOR models.
Okay, and why do you select to use another set of enable elements, you know, a separate set rather than what is in SCOR, DCOR, and CCOR?
Because we have individual needs to support a whole new set of execution processes. The other reason is something that Kaspar Hunsche once wrote in an article. Kaspar Hunsche is the CTO of the Supply Chain Council, that the enable processes often link the various reference models. So we definitely need a different set of enable processes to link to the SCOR model, to link to the DCOR model, to link to the CCOR model. But again, the main reason is for a separate set of enable processes that we have quite different performance expectations, and that also the specific content of each of the enable processes is quite different from specific content in supply chain, in DCOR, or in CCOR.
Okay. Albert, can attendees ask you more questions via your email? Is that okay?
Sure, absolutely.
Follow-up questions?
Absolutely.
And in addition, the location of the, somebody is asking me, the location of that meeting that we're holding on the 23rd is actually in San Jose, California. SAP and several other of the software companies in that area will be represented as a project that all the software industry is working on together, and you can acquire the telephone call-in via looking at the website. We have a lot of items on our calendar on the supplychain.org website. However, if you go down through all of the events and find the 23rd of September, the location and how to find the telephone call-in is all posted on the website. So that's all up there. That's all the questions I have so far. And if anyone has any more questions to send me, please do so now, or raise your hand so I can see that you're thinking about it, or you're writing down something while we're waiting. Otherwise, that's all I have for today. Albrecht, do you have anything else to add for now?
Not for now.
And as I noted, we did record this, so it will be posted in the webinar archive, also on the website. So thank you, Albrecht, and we hope everyone who can call in or attend in the September 23rd meeting can do so. Prior to that, if you have questions for Albrecht, please go ahead and ask him directly. And we will have someone else representing SAP in San Jose, but he's also very familiar with this work and is in constant communication with Albrecht. So thank you again, everyone, for attending today, and we look forward to having you with us on a future Supply Chain Council webinar. Thank you. Good day.
Bye.